Hello and welcome to House of Cult. My name is Alessandro, and with me, as always, is Ariel, the owner and founder of the Pretty Cult. Today's episode will be a little bit different as we'll be celebrating the return of Warped Tour in 2025 in honor of its 30th anniversary, with select shows taking place in Washington, D.C., Orlando, and just down the highway from us in Long Beach, California. To mark the occasion, we are super stoked to launch our new series, House of Warped, where we're interviewing some of our favorite bands and artists who are set to participate in the revival of Warped Tour this year. And today we couldn't be more excited to be chatting with Levi Benton of the legendary metalcore act, Miss May I, who will be at all three cities for Warped Tour this year. Plus, we have a ton of other stuff to talk about, considering Miss May I is just about 2 years shy from hitting their 20th anniversary as a band. So, without any further ado, let's jump into it. How's it going, Levi?
Good. How are you? I'm good. I can't believe it's 20 years. You saying that, I just took my breath away. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's wild, man. Yeah. I mean, it feels just like yesterday, seeing Miss May I pop up, on MySpace, 2007.
I know I just started growing my facial hair out. It feels like I still feel like a kid. This is like my first year with facial hair. I was like, oh man. Yeah, it's
That's
been fun.
true. You truly have not aged. I do have to say that. Like you look almost the exact same age as when the band
I'll
first
take
came
that. I appreciate it. We're still having fun. I think that has a lot to do with it. It's just like still goofy. So, because we see a lot of other bands lose the goofiness, and I think the older we get, the more fun it gets. So.
I love that. That's awesome. So obviously, we want to first kind of touch on the Warp Tour aspect of the band's career, and obviously the fact that you guys are taking place in the revival this year, although it's, a little bit different than, well, quite different from what Warp Tour used to be. However, before, Miss May I ever played Warp Tour, you were obviously a fan in the crowd, Do you remember your first Warped experience, like as a kid, and are there any highlights from that?
Oh yeah, it's actually still. I just talked about this recently with a friend because it was such a tiny thing. So my first Warped Tour, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, which I think is so bad. I think it's 2006 or seven. I'll look it up while we're talking here. But um, All America Rejects opened in Cincinnati, and they were playing their last song as their opening song, and he like threw Cincinnati into the lyrics. And I don't know what it was, but as like a 14-year-old, I was like, it was magical. It like literally melted my brain that you could do that. Which now it's funny because we have those discussions backstage and we're like, oh no, this is cheesy. But I'm like, I remember that from when I was 14 still. And I was like, what? He said Cincinnati instead of the lyric? I'm like, that's crazy. Which up there for him, it's nothing. It's just screwing around. So it's just so cool that yeah, it was just so impactful because I just and I think about that when we play those shows because I remember how impactful everything. I remember meeting like Sonny from First to Last because they were like selling their own CDs. And he was like had dreadlocks and smelled like French fries, and I was like, "Oh, this guy lives in a van and he's doing what I want to do." I'm like, "That's so cool." And because they were just like a small band doing it, and it's like it's so freaking awesome. Yeah, I don't know. It's so magical. It's actually crazy that they pulled it off as long as they did for how big of a circus it was.
Kind of getting back to it, obviously the band first played Warped Tour, I believe in 2011 or 2012, for
It's
Miss May I.
2010.
2010. Okay. So what do you kind of remember from those early years, like starting out on Warped Tour? Like what kind of stands out as like your first memory that kind of you look back on when you first, set foot on the Warped Tour grounds when you were playing as an artist?
Oh man, I think obviously just the crowd and the it was our first time, and it's something I think really shaped us as a band. It was the first time playing to people that are possibly not into the genre.
Hmm.
And that it's not only just like winning over a crowd, but you're winning over an entire person's like musical taste. So it was a whole new challenge. But the other cool thing was everyone comes to Warped Tour to have a good time. So it's also a very easy crowd because everyone's there to have fun, even if they don't really, they're just waiting for the next band. So it was a bit really cool learning experience. And I think that's the biggest thing I remember is just going out in that because it was like we were doing tours and clubs, and then there's thousands of people a day, and we were like a hot viral band at the time, and
Hmm.
so it was like we were like known for being rowdy, and it that was just so cool because it like a switch flipped. It was like, oh, this is, and that was our first time we had a tour bus. I remember a tour bus pulling up to my apartment and being like, all our parents came. We were taking pictures out front of it. And we're like, this is crazy. And we had
You're
the
like, we made
ugliest tour
it.
bus. Yeah, it was the ugliest, worst tour bus too. It was so hideous, but it was awesome.
I love that. That's
I
so
love
cool that your
it.
parents got to see it too and be like, you know what? Like, because you guys probably had to have been like early 20s, right? Like when you were starting Warp
I
Tour.
was 19.
Okay, so there you go. So your parents are
Yeah.
seeing you at 19. They're like, okay, he's getting in a tour bus. I think it's gonna be okay. I think
Yeah.
he's at least gonna have like AC on this tour. It's gonna be okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was such Warped Tour was a huge pinnacle for us because the cool thing is like if you most people travel in a nicer vehicle for Warped Tour because of the circumstances. So
Yeah.
like it's sort of like a step in to that world too, even if it's not like your normal thing. But it was such a huge pinnacle for us going from just a van playing sweaty clubs to like thousands of people in a tour bus. It was like you really and you're on Warped Tour with like you're brushing shoulders with the most insane artists
Yeah,
backstage, especially if you're working your way up. It's awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off that, from many long, hot parking lots, spent cooking on the asphalt. As we all know, the bottoms of our feet would be like raw and hot from the day. Worked, is infamous for being brutal as much as it is fun and exciting. We'd love to know what some of your like wildest and most meaningful memories were from those years.
Oh my gosh. So I think one of my favorites, it was I think our last year we did it. So there's a thing on Warped Tour where you have to, or not, you don't have to, but if you have empty bunks, you like rent them out to other people. Because
Mhm.
there's just so
Oh.
it's like I said, it's like a circus. So there's so many people, and we had like three empty bunks, and we rented them out to like an acoustic artist and some other merch guys, and we did that every year. So we always had like roommates that were like, "What's up? Nice to meet you. This is our bus." And one of the days off, like there was a bunch of Warped Tour, but there's like just I think it was mainly crew buses, but we were next to like a go-kart facility, and at night we were just like, I don't even know, I would never do this now, which is just so funny how like prude and old man I am. But we like jumped the fence and pretty much like started up all these go-karts and just all like broke into this go-kart facility one night on Warped Tour and just had our whole time. We had the whole theme park to ourselves. And there was no one for because we were like in the middle of nowhere, like because the days off on Warped Tour are like cornfields. So it was like a hotel and a go-kart facility and then 20 miles to the next stop. And so no one was there to yell at us. And we're just like, I wonder what would happen if we just turned those on. And that was probably one of my favorite Warped Tour memories. Ever. And then another cool thing now to see, sorry, this is another one. It's
Oh
coming.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
please.
go for
buffering
it.
as
Yeah.
we talk about it. Another cool one. He's a homie, and it's just cool to see how ginormous he is and still grows. It was cool to befriend Machine Gun Kelly on Warped Tour
Oh
because we were
wow.
like Ohio
Oh.
people, and he was so that was like our bridge, but he was on a smaller stage. We were on main stage, and they played break stuff and there's obviously like a screaming part. And once we broke down, it was Austin from Of Mice did it some days, and then I would do it as well. And that was just like our whole, yeah, it was like a cool bro circle. And we still stay in touch. We still see them when they come in, and it's cool to see like now it's like I would say like bigger. I don't even know what status, it's like beyond whatever he is now. Uh,
Yeah,
but it's just so cool because I just remember seeing him on Warped Tour and just how humble and they're still that cool. And that's just like what Warped Tour does, like those kind of
Hmm.
weird
absolutely.
connections, you know?
That's so cool. Yeah. I always forget that MGK, yeah, is an Ohio boy at his core.
Oh yeah. And I didn't know of him. We were just like he had a because he plays with a live band, or at the time he did. He still does, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were just wild and playing rap, and we're just like, yo. And he had 75. I'm like, we live in Dayton. And then like we broke down, he would come see our shows and because they thought that was wild. And then yeah, and then now he's like a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Now he's like
Absolutely.
a Halloween costume as
Literally.
a yeah, general
Yeah.
pop culture icon. It's cool.
100%. And now you're set to return for the 30th anniversary revival this July. How did it sort of feel getting that call, and what does it mean to be a part of this historic moment for, this tour? Although it is quite different, do you feel like it will feel like somewhat of a high school reunion to some degree?
That's what I'm mainly excited for. I know the show's gonna be awesome, but I'm more excited for the hangs. I
The
think it's gonna be
hangs.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the emo was crazy because it's like a dream that everyone would want to come back. Um, so when when we got the email was it was crazy because I don't know how many people know this, but the last Warp Tour, they didn't disclose that it was like the last Warp Tour when we were getting
Yeah.
the email. So we were like playing hardball. And then they pulled it and moved on, and I was like, and then I found out it's the last work. So I was like, no, wait, we'll do it, never mind. And it's
Yeah.
like that was the thing that I always had a nightmare with. And remember, so even getting the email for this was nice because I was like, okay, we didn't hurt their feelings. And then the cherry on top, which they didn't tell us at all or disclose, was we were like the first five band in the first five bands of an announcement, which was nuts
Yeah.
because I'm like the status of bands that are on there. I was like, and we're a metal band. I'm like, what? I'm like, we're just happy to be there. I'm like, we're not even like the Warped Tour band. So it was very nice to. They've always taken care of us. We literally have played every single stage up, so it's been awesome.
That's awesome. That's so special. That's incredible.
Yeah, so sick. You know, with such a stacked lineup, are there any bands you're personally just really excited to catch their set or reconnect with them on the road this year?
Oh man, I'd have to like look. There's so many. It's crazy. I love seeing the ABR boys, Machine Gun Kelly being at some like I don't know. It's really hard to say because there's so many. And when we see them all the time at festivals, so this one's a little different. I think the crossovers, which we don't get to do a lot like we used to, like Sleeping with Sirens and
Hmm.
like seeing the State Champ Boys. We just got to see them in Mexico a few days ago. But seeing those, and that's like a crossover. And the Wonder, like those are bands like Wonder Years. We were like, dude, we used to play 6 months together, like half a year, and we were like bro down, and then we haven't seen each other in a decade because like those kind of
Yeah.
tours sort of faded away. So and we're a band that can play both, and those bands can play both as well. So it's like I don't know what has happened over time, but it's cool to bring those kind of shows back because I think the fans also appreciate it, and I feel like that's the most growth of like a fan base you can get is doing those kind of shows because, like I said, you're not trying to win over a metal fan. I'm trying to win over like a pop fan's music taste.
Yeah,
Like, hey, you want to hear a guitar solo over a breakdown? Like, let's hang out.
absolutely. Do you kind of think this is, not even in our list of questions really, but do you think that this is could be sort of a proof of concept if they were to bring the tour nationwide again? Or do you think that's even like a sustainable thing that could exist in
I don't think it's
2025?
sustainable. I've ran that scenario in my head a million times. And that's why I think it's crazy we even did it then. Like, and I feel like so dumb that I not took it for granted, but forgot how, like, it's crazy how special it was. Like, it was so common to like see a horizon, like over the horizon, 100 buses and semis. Like, that was just like a Thursday night. And now to think of that now, you're like, that'll never happen again. Like, that was as far as you could see of buses and semis, like caravanning all night. Like, and you would know, I remember being a kid when Warped Tour would come into town, people would be like, I saw them on the highway. They're coming. You
Yeah,
just see all the semis come in, and you're like, I don't know. The sustainability thing's crazy because I even think you hear horror stories of just these like regional festivals having hard times.
yeah,
So like, and I know towards the end of Warped Tour, it just got harder and harder. Obviously, is why it slowed down. So I think, yeah,
yeah.
it's like it was a circus. It was a cool time to be there as a kid.
Absolutely. Kind of switching gears a bit too, I want to touch on, the fact that it's been almost 3 years, I believe, since Curse of Existence, which itself, was, I think, in many ways a comeback album for Miss May I after, a 5 year gap. And I feel like it reignited the spark within your fan base, especially. And it was, very, very loved by your fans and critics. Are there any new Miss May I songs in the works? Any hints at where things are heading? Sonically or thematically. I would imagine you guys are probably antsy to start making some new music.
Yeah, so we actually have the finished new stuff. It's just we're just planning on how to appropriately get it out there. So it's just a lot of back and forth, but it's done. I have it in the drive. I've sent it to many friends. But yeah, we have new music. I can't wait to get it out. The cool thing is, which I'm hoping our fans are like putting together the dots because it's I just don't know how. far people read into it as much, but like it's really cool because this is our first new music with a new lineup. We've never had a new lineup in our career.
Yeah.
So and the two guys who have switched out were the main songwriters, so it's fresh songwriting to the flavor of Miss May I. And we're doing everything in-house at Elijah's studio, and we're not traveling out anymore. So everything's really like changed, but in a very
Yeah.
cool way because we had to change it to make Miss May I continue anyways. And it's where it has landed has been really cool. So I'm excited for fans to hear it because it feels new and refreshed for me because it's a whole new band. Yeah, and it's exciting.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
touching on that, like bringing in new blood, like were they, previously Miss May I fans? Do you feel like it's sort of like having somebody coming in with a fan perspective, helping to write these songs, like knowing
No,
exactly what
it's
you
it's
want?
actually it's a different perspective, which I'm happy because that's like a route we could have taken. We could have done like the find the YouTube like superhero and bring
Yeah.
him in, which is great as well. You see that happen all the time. This was actually sort of by accident. So like he was technically Elijah was filling in. So we to backtrack a little bit is our guitar player Justin, original guitar player Justin, he was producing the band War of Ages, which
Mm.
Eliza is in. Um, and when Justin and BJ couldn't do the tour, he was like, call this guy. Um, it was actually the other guitar player of War of Ages who was busy. So he's like, hey, Elijah plays bass, but he's actually a better guitar player than me. So we tapped in Elijah and he filled in with the guys while they were like sort of teeter-tottering if what their decision was going to be moving forward. And we had such a great time and they made their decision and we're like, Elijah's like, he's already here and he's the man. And we didn't even think about the studio and all the stuff that would come. Um, so yeah, and then to go back, of how like where he fits in musically with us. It's really cool. So he's from Missouri, um, which it's funny in the Midwest, we're the same age and we were doing the same exact thing, just like 500 miles east. So like we were listening to the same bands and playing the same local shows just in different circuits. So like we're inspired by all the same bands. He's actually a lot more heavier and black metal and scarier than we are. He
Hmm.
sessions and plays for like some bands overseas too. Like he's a
Oh, sick.
he's the real deal. He's like our big evil Viking. So it's cool because that's another thing is like since we're cut from the same stuff where we can relate, but then we can bring in stuff that he doesn't know, and he's also bringing fresh stuff that we don't know because it's just a whole nother direction. And you can really tell that in the new music because I'm like, what is this from? He's like, oh, Carcass's album back in '86. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? And he's like,
Hell yeah.
this riff. Exactly. It's so cool. I'm like, please tell me more.
That's so
So.
cool.
Yeah, so
Hell
that's the
yeah.
new freshman spec. And I think I'm hoping people are reading in the logo and stuff, and art is slowly changing. We got big surprises coming, but like I said, due time.
Due
That's very
time.
exciting. Hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah. We're excited for that. And nearly 20 years deep as a band, what kind of still fuels that creative fire and what keeps the hunger alive to keep pushing forward and, writing new music?
So, I would actually say it isn't really the creative thing as much as it is the friendship. We think
Mm.
about that more and more, and it's really just the friendship and camaraderie. Like to us, we're just having a good time, and it just so happens that people are coming to the shows. So like we're just playing and having fun and like goofing off and showing off, like and playing what we like to play. Um, and I feel like we lost that at some points, and I think like I said, if people read into it more, they can probably pinpoint where we've made different like commercial decisions or career decisions. But like I think now at this time in our career and going through the pandemic and becoming parents and just all and like the economy of music and just technology changing, it's like it's sort of back to the basics of like we're just having a blast, and it's really special to us, and it's really cool that we get to do what we do, and it's grown to what it is. And I think that's why what keeps us going more than the creative stuff. Like I said, that's all a cherry on top. Like getting to go to the studio and being like, this song is cool. That's not why we're in the band. We're in the band because I want to hang out with Jared, Ryan, and Elijah all the time. And our crew is the coolest. We've had the same crew since like our first tour, so it's awesome.
I love
That's really
that.
cool. Yeah, that's a really, I think, great perspective on how to look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you like close your eyes and headbang and you open up like, oh, people are watching us. You're like, And I'm here like, listen, they're doing goofy like
Yeah.
squeaks to mess me up, and we're like trying to screw each other up playing. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're really doing. You guys are just watching the show.
Sonically, like if you could give some hints, like, where would you say the music is kind of heading? Are you, continuing to sort of have the balance between melody and aggression? Do you feel like you're also trying to dial up the aggressiveness even more, or maybe the melodic side? Like where does this new album sort of heading towards?
Yeah, so I think we touched base on this a little bit on our last album when we were doing or just diving into it to where uh we there was like another version of this album to where we like really went weird and deep into our inspirations. And I think and because of the pandemic and the time off, we had to dial it back and be like, wait, we're getting a little too stony and weird. And I think this time around it's leaning more into that, but like I said, with more inspirations. And then I think the more which I it's weird to be a band 20 years and be doing this so long and have like the Rolodex we have or whatever, and still say you're not confident in things because I think there's just more confidence in like every time we go in to do an album, we're like, you know what? What's the worst that could happen? Like we're still
Yeah.
like scared to do stuff. And I think this was a big step because we know we're getting older. Like it's getting harder to do this. Not physically, but just like every album you do as an older band, it's like it's just a whole new challenge. Uh, and so it's I think because of that and because we're analyzing that, we really took a lot of chances on just diving into some inspirations like of bands like Swedish bands or some like black metal bands or stuff that's like really deep in there that we're like that's like a guilty pleasure. We're like, you know what? Like let's see and then we threw those out there and what came back, we're like, this is cool. Like this is a conversation starter. It's not just a heavy song. It's like people will be like, "Did you hear what they did? That was weird." And that's what we try to do with each one of the songs was like put an Easter egg in there that we've never done, just so these new songs are refreshing because we know we have 100 songs out there now. Like we
Yeah.
understand that, so we're just trying to put some Easter eggs out there for everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so stoked to hear it. And I would love to kind of nerd out about something right now. Miss May I recently signed to Solid State, a label that has shaped a lot of, bands that I'm sure we all grew up loving, to this day. You know, I'm kind of curious how that partnership kind of came about and what drew you to that point in your career. Because obviously the band has been on, Rise. They've been on, you guys have been on Sharp Tone, I believe.
Yeah.
Why did Solid State sort of feel like the right partner and how did that sort of come about?
Yeah, yeah. So, our Rise deal, when that happened was just like it was up and we just wanted to sort of just change scenery and see what else is out there. And then same with Sharp Tone. So when that deal was up, it was like we could do the same team or just see like try to just keep consuming knowledge and see what else we could do. And we went and shopped around and talked to some people. And the really cool thing with Solid State was there's just not it's hard to I always it's hard to come into this because I'm not saying other labels aren't this, but
Hmm.
them in particularly, um, they had a lot of really cool freedoms that they were giving us
Hmm.
just because our schedule is different. Like Miss May is not the product we were back in the day, touring 9 months a year, go, go, go. Because now we have families and now like the art is more important and like precious to us and fragile. So we like are taking our time with things. And obviously, as a commercial thing, at the end of the day, people that's not always the best thing. And that really sort of filtered out the herd of who we were talking to. And yeah, coming to them, it was awesome. It's funny because I think Jeremy DePorster, I don't know if I should say this on here. He calls it the like retirement home of metalcore. It's just like because they're so cool of like, hey, we know you guys got this. Do whatever you want, and like that was just so nice. Like I don't know if you guys saw the MMI space, but like I developed that and put it up, and it was like just screwing around. I was like, oh, this is a cool way to
Yeah.
tease that we're doing the re-release. And it was like, I didn't, there was no approval process or any of these things or run it by anybody. They're just like, you guys know what you're doing. Let us know if you need anything. And it was just, that was nice because we have screaming kids sometimes or like, now I
Yeah.
got T-ball practice and like we got all these other things going on, which is
Yeah.
great, but it's just not like it used to be. And yeah, Solid State was just so cool with that. And I think they had a point they wanted to do too of just showing people, because we're not like a Christian band. They have the stigma
Hmm.
of like this Christian band
Hmm.
label. And that's not where I think they're wanting to head. And I
Yeah,
think
no.
they brought us on as well as like the poster boys for that. Um, and which was really cool because and we know they wanted to do that as well. So and I think like another thing just to add because I love them so much, like the apologies for the week thing wasn't even in the original deal. Like we were already going to Solid State,
Yeah.
everything was done, and then one day somebody sent an email. It's like, hey, while we're waiting, do you guys just want to do a re-release of it? And we're like, oh, that's a great idea. And they're like, you guys should just do whatever you want and like let us know. And then we like hit up all our friends, hit up the old artists. Like that was all us just sending text and put together that whole release. And they were just like, yeah, this is fun. And it was so successful. And I think a lot of it has to do with we know our fans. Like I see
Yeah.
them every day. I'm like, let me give them what they want. I know what they want. So.
Yeah, yeah. I actually wanted to touch on that reissue. I'm kind of curious. Does Miss May I have more plans to kind of do the Taylor version, Taylor's version of all the different records and stuff like that?
So this hasn't been discussed either, which is nice to get out there, just for the deep dive Miss May I people. So that was sort of like the like closing chapter of Miss May I, as it was, and like now since we're a new like band essentially,
Hmm.
and just like a new like we want to bring something new and fresh. Um, I think that might be the last time we look back on a previous Miss May I thing, but that's why we made
Sure.
such a huge deal of it because Apologies was such a big deal for us.
Yeah.
And the change of the lineup was like perfect timing. So we're like, you know what? Let's celebrate and then move on. So yeah, so that's what we did. And it was cool. All the friends tapped in and everybody was like, let's go. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's such a stacked list of featured artists on there. It's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And they all are sentimental to the album. It wasn't just like a random, they all like meant something during that album and that time
Yeah.
for us. So it's cool.
That's really cool. Just two more quick questions, just kind of touching back on the solid state aspect. I'd always like to ask, like, do you have any personal favorite releases from that label, growing up?
Oh man. So you're asking the worst knowledge guy ever. I would have to say, um, hold on one second. I actually let me make sure this is on there. Well, I have one I was gonna say, but I don't wanna all these people will oh yeah. That's what I thought. He is Legend was
Oh
me
my
and
God.
Faith.
That's
Yeah.
her
Yes.
favorite.
Oh,
I love my husband and I. They just announced, I think today they're doing like the Suck Out the Poison
oh,
tour. And we're
Mm,
dude,
like, we're
he's the
going.
coolest guy ever.
yeah, he
He
really
is
is.
so sick, such a good show, the most underrated band. We should have them on a podcast.
Yeah,
I
we absolutely
Oh,
should.
fucking
Yeah.
love He Is Legend. And I was wondering if you were gonna say that. Like I was like, I feel like he's looking up if He Is Legend was on there. Because I felt it. I was like, I love that band. And yeah, they're so great live.
I think it was junior year of high school. Me and BJ, our guitar player, we were in high school, and he was like, "Yo, uh, no, it wasn't a nice text. It was probably like an AOL thing." He's like, "Hey, He's Legends playing in Columbus," and we literally were in school, and like we were like in between classes, and there was a glass, like there was an exit door, and he's like, I'm parked right here," and we left. And he smoked cigarettes. I didn't smoke, so I smoked a cigarette with him on the way to Columbus. And I'm like, we
Hell
just skipped
yeah.
school. Mom called me. She's like, "Where you at?" I'm like, "I'm going to see Killswitch and He's Legend." Bye, mom. And we like skipped school, got tickets, and it was Dragon Force, Kill Switch. It was like the cool. They opened. It was freaking the coolest
Oh
thing
my
ever. And I just
God.
remember, yeah, just smoking a cig, skipping school, and I'm like, I'm in so much trouble tomorrow after this. But it's awesome.
Oh my God, I
Dude,
love that so much.
literally, yeah, that album is 20 years old, and they literally announced today they're taking out that
I'm,
album
li-
on tour.
I'm
The,
listening to
the
that today. Right when we get off here, I'm jamming that.
the
Yeah.
amount of
Oh,
times I've sent like other bands when like they're like, let's come up with music video concepts. I send that He Is Legend video. I think it's for I Am Hollywood with like all the puppets and everything. I'm like, just do
Yeah.
something like that. Just do that. It'll be awesome. Like so sick. Like that's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be listening to He Is Legend again today as
yeah.
well.
Now we all know what we're putting on after this podcast.
That's
Yeah,
right.
100%. Yeah, just kind of, looking ahead, what else can we expect? Obviously, we touched on the new album that's coming. you know, obviously, I think you guys are also playing Louder Than Life
Yes.
or Aftershock, I believe, this year.
Just Louder in Life.
Just Louder Than Life. And then I know the headline tour you're leaving today, and that's with Gideon, Dreamwake, and Soulkeeper.
Yep. And it goes through
Yeah.
Canada. We haven't been to Canada in a while. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, it was a nice little ride. And we're doing the Road to Warp Tour, which I think is on Friday, um, in Scranton, which is Balls' new venue at the Ritz.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So in Memphis, Mayfire will be there. That's like the start of the reunions. It's like all these people like we don't get to see Memphis like we used to. Like that was the other thing with Warp Tour is like you could always count on Warp Tour. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
next summer I'll see you guys. Like I'll see you next summer. I'll see you next summer. And now you're like, no. So
I
um,
have to ask, I don't know if this is an offensive question by any means, but like we obviously we love Memphis Mayfire. We've had Maddie on the show. Do you ever notice that people sometimes will phonetically say Memphis Mayfire when they're saying Miss May I or
oh,
Miss May I when
dude.
they're saying Memphis
Story
Mayfire?
of my life. Do you know how many printed pieces of paper is like Memphis May I or Mayfire I? And like we show up to the venue and I'm like, they tried. I'm like, it's okay. And then I like look at the calendar and I'm like, oh, they were here 3 days ago. I'm like, that is pretty confusing.
No,
Especially if you're like a worker.
I love both bands so much, and it's like the same thing when I'm interviewing Maddie. I'm like, don't say Miss May I. When I'm interviewing you, I'm like, don't say Memphis Mayfire. I don't know what it is. It's just I maybe obviously M band names, and then both were on Rise, at the
Yeah.
same time and everything like that. It was just very. I think it happened with Thrice and Thursday quite a bit in like the
Yeah.
mid 2000s as
Still, to
well.
me, when I see a logo real quick, I have to like double take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
When we tour together, it is a straight up nightmare. So
Yeah. Well, Levi, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and just, super stoked about the new album and, you know, everything that's coming this summer with Warped and all the different fests and the tour. And just can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with us.
anytime. Thank you guys for having me. Thanks for not kicking me off for being the lead singer and being late. I
No,
promise.
you're
Oh, it's all
Not,
totally
good.
I am
good.
not that guy. I
No, of
promise.
course not. No, absolutely not. Just thank you so much, dude. And we'll let you get back to getting ready to leave for tour.
Awesome. See you guys around.
See
All
you
right.
later.